What an absolutely wonderful keynote address. I think if you listen to Family Talk, you're going to hear that one again because that was wonderful and right on point. I have the privilege of introducing the last speakers today that I have respect for, and to do so, if you will indulge me, I want to go back to the start of World War II, when there were so many things that happened that are of relevance to where we are today and what's going on right now. And Pat, seeing you here today reminds me of you coming to be on our program, and you and I are among the few in this room who remember the start of World War II. You're considerably older than I am, but I was 5 when Pearl Harbor occurred, but we talked about our memories of World War II and what the beginning of that war was like. And I remember talking to my mother about it. I knew that the adults were very anxious about it. I asked my mother if we could lose that war, and she was honest with me. At 5 years old, she said I was 5 years old, she said to me, yes, we need to pray about that. We could lose this war. And I was in the backyard, and a plane flew over, and I was with my great-grandmother. And spontaneously, she looked up at that. It was actually a fighter plane, I remember. And she looked up and pointed at it and said, "Oh, we need to pray about that." And I said, "Why? Is it going to crash?" And she said, "No, but there's a man up there. There's a pilot up there, and he has a family. We should pray for him." I didn't know that she was thinking about the war and that he might be in combat and might die. But she was thinking prayer. Everybody at that time was thinking prayer. Well, some of you are aware that the beginning of the war, Adolf Hitler just completely overran Europe, Belgium and Holland and Luxembourg and so many of the countries of Europe. And he just was unstoppable. Then he came to France. Everybody thought France would hold him back, but the French and British expeditionary forces were not able to hold him. And within 40 days, he had driven the armies of France and Britain to the coast of France, to Dunkirk. You've heard about Dunkirk. And there were 500,000 men that were trapped, and they were about to be annihilated. The German army surrounded them, and then there was nowhere to go except the English coast, the coast of France. And there was a sense of panic there that is difficult to imagine today. Everybody thought it was over. The king of Britain said that the war is lost. And everybody but Churchill thought it was. Even Roosevelt thought it was lost. And you can imagine a fairly small country like Britain. Everybody had somebody over there that was trapped and were about to either be captured or massacred in one way or the other. And you know what they did? They called for a national day of prayer. And it started in France. France had a national day of prayer. Then the King George VI called for a national day of prayer. May the 26th, 1940, the darkest day of the war. And the churches on that Sunday were absolutely bulging with people who were there praying and calling on God and asking for a miracle. 24 hours later, Adolf Hitler inexplicably stopped his armies. He could have destroyed them and left England defenseless, naked against his assault. And he stopped his armies, and to this day, they do not know why. He just did. And as a result, the people of the British Isles sent little boats over, they called them, little yachts and anything that would float, and got 334,000 of them off and saved them because of prayer. And if it could happen then, it could happen now. God can do a miracle. It seemed hopeless then. And for some of us, it has almost seemed hopeless here with what's taking place. And yet we know there is hope, Greg. And thank you for bringing that message. Now let me introduce the people who are going to represent the military. Rear Admiral William D Lee is the Deputy for Operational Policy and Capabilities in the U.S. Coast Guard. He has a BA from the University of South Alabama and a master's degree from George Washington University. He has conducted nearly 20,000 search and rescue missions. He's got incredible experience and has served honorably and has been duly decorated for his service. His wife is Mary. They have 2 children. I also want to introduce the representative of the military who is going to be praying the prayer, Captain Colonel Thomas Wynick, who is representing the Pentagon. He has a bachelor's and master's degree in history from Concordia College. He was first called to be a pastor to Emmanuel Lutheran Church School in Mercedes, Texas. I used to live right near there. In 1991, the Missions Board of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod sent him to serve and asked him to represent them as an U.S. Army chaplain. He has had assignments all over the world for the last 22 years and has received, again, many military decorations. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist and an author and a speaker. But first, will you welcome Admiral William D Lee.
I had prepared exactly 10 minutes worth of notes. I had practiced it. I know you're weary. And so what I'm going to do is I left those notes over there on my chair, and I'm going to try to speak to you from the heart and take up just half the time. To put this in context, I want you to know right up front that I'm not a chaplain. I wouldn't even describe myself as a religious man. I'm nothing more than a sinner in a sailor suit. But I am a man of deep and abiding faith. A man of faith who happens to be wearing a uniform. And it is my honor to stand up here before you today representing the soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, the Marines, and the Coast Guardsmen who have put on the cloth of our nation to serve their country. Thank you. I am not worthy of the honor to represent these fine men and women. The average American sitting in their armchair this evening watching the evening news will have little knowledge that the 317 million fellow citizens that occupy the United States of America have less than 1% of that population wearing the uniform. If you add up all the men and women who have stepped up and volunteered to serve our nation right now, who are on active duty in any of the 5 branches of the military, it is less than 1% of the total population. If you add up all of the men and women who have ever served in the military, wearing the cloth for any length of time, whether it be 2 years or 32 years, that sum total would add up to a little less than 8% of our population. That person sitting in that armchair watching the news tonight will have little knowledge that every day, if the statistics hold true for the last 4 years, 1 or more of them will be killed in a mission-related accident or mishap in combat. 10 or more will be seriously wounded, many losing limbs, being disfigured, burnt, scarred, maimed, disfigured for the rest of their lives. Some of those men and women will put on prosthetics, strap them on every day, and put that uniform on again and continue to serve. When they have a choice, they could go home. And here's a statistic that should ring your bell. One of them, on any given day, is likely to commit suicide. Last year, 349 active duty members killed themselves. Each and every day of the week. In fact, every 65 minutes, a veteran who has served his country commits suicide. That is a rate 300% greater per capita than the national norm. The one thing all of these men and women have in common is that they all stepped up and volunteered. They did not have to do it. They are willing to go into harm's way, whether it be on patrol in Afghanistan or going out in the dark and stormy seas off of Kodiak, Alaska, to rescue a fisherman in distress. They are willing to put their lives on the line. In so doing, they endure stresses that the average American would ever know. There is no other business quite like that of the United States military armed forces. I ask that you pray for them. I ask that you pray for their leaders. Right now, as we speak, leaders like myself are feeling the constraints of rules and regulations and guidance issued down by lawyers that puts us in a tighter and tighter box regarding our constitutional right to express our religious faith. As one general so aptly put it, they expect us to check our religion in at the door. Don't bring that here. Leave that business to the chaplains. I'm here to tell you there's not enough chaplains to go around. And who can tell that young man who is downtrodden and on his last legs, who has no hope, to go make an appointment to see the chaplain? Go get in line and wait when the opportunity right now exists. Yet if I do something such as I did just several weeks ago when I was looking into the face of a young man, 20-some years old, who had 18 months before put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger and survived. When I looked at that young man and I heard his story, the rules say, send him to the chaplain. my heart said, give this man a Bible. Every 65 minutes, a veteran pulls the trigger or takes their own life. I want you to remember that number. We remember it, we see it. And the problem that men and women like me face in uniform who are in senior leadership positions is that the higher you are, the more vulnerable you are to being taken down. You get in the crosshairs of those people who lay in wait outside the gate, waiting to take us to task for expressing our faith. For so much as whispering to a young man who is on his last hope that there is hope. That I can just simply whisper, and here is the answer. Take it home. I'll talk about it if you want. The lawyers tell me that if I do that, I'm crossing the line. I'm so glad I have crossed that line so many times. I'm trying to be brief. When I left my outline over on the chair over there, I did, however, write down on the little back of a business card one little note that I did not want to forget. There are two places in the Bible where it says that Jesus was amazed. One is at the faith of the centurion, a simple soldier, a leader of men. And the other was at the unbelief of his own townspeople. I am telling you that your own armed forces, the sons and daughters of the men and women like you that are wearing the uniform, there are thousands of them who have the faith of that centurion, yet we are being told to hide that light under a basket. I'm telling you that I am coming out today to tell you I am not going to run from my religious freedoms, from my right under the Constitution to tell a young man that there is hope. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Please. I am not worthy of that. I just want to leave you with this. We place great emphasis on leadership. Night before last, I went on the internet. I went on to Amazon.com, and I went into the book section. And I went to their search engine, and I put into that search engine the keyword leadership. And I did a search. I got 91,125 hits on books written on or about leadership. There are many, many good leadership books in there. No doubt, and I've read a lot of them. I cannot dispute their validity or the purpose that they were intended. But the best book of leadership was nowhere on that list. The best book of leadership is this book right here, the Holy Bible, the Scriptures, written over the course of 1,400 years or so. Because in this book, it teaches you first and foremost how to be a follower. And you cannot be a leader until you know how to follow, and you have got a right and proper moral compass, such as that we read in the Holy Scriptures in the Judeo-Christian system of values. I ask that you, men and women, pray for us. That you will pray that we will be able to weather the storm that I am almost certain will come. That we will not be required to put aside our constitutional rights to express our religious faith. I am not talking about proselytizing. I am vehemently against that. I'm talking about gently whispering the gospel. You're likely to see much ado about this in the future. But I leave you with this. This is not a Christian issue. It is not a Jewish issue or a Muslim issue or a Hindu issue. This is an American issue. Pray for your United States military, and let us take a stand and not run. God bless you all.